Welcome into Rover Sports. We're here on a Saturday night and want to welcome everybody in, wish everybody a happy new year, and a lot of miscellaneous things happening in the world of sports. Number one, college coaching carousel. Spencer, give us a little update.
Yeah, so Steve Sarkisian is going to the University of Texas. He's going there from Alabama. He was the Alabama offensive coordinator there for the last few years. He led some really successful offense, and he's going now to the University of Texas. So overall, I think that this is a very interesting hire by Alabama. Sarkisian, at USC had some drinking problems. And the fact is that he's going now to Alabama. He wasn't that great at USC. He wasn't great at Washington. He did develop some good offense at Alabama, but I have really serious doubts about him really being an elite coach for Texas.
So I know that when Tom Herman was initially hired, you were very much of a Tom Herman guy. You liked his motivation.
Yeah.
Certainly a good ball coach. And what went wrong in Texas?
Well, what went wrong is that really poor defense at Texas with Tom Herman. I'd say that the defensive line just was not very good. He did not make really good defensive hires. He did not recruit defense. The microphone. So
Let's start again.
yeah, well, maybe we could just do it on the front. We use this computer. So
Do we have sound though?
yeah, we do. We have sound
good.
here.
That's all right. Well, this is welcome to the world of technical difficulties in the new year. And we have got some likes. People even are liking the fact that we're struggling. We really appreciate our Rovers. A lot of your friends are logging in. How about some comments at the top of the show? What do you say?
Yeah, everybody's excited to be here, excited for tomorrow, and excited for the games tomorrow.
Now, there are a lot of New York Giants fans on YouTube, a lot of Philly fans here in our home studio of course, ESPN Rover Sports. And I guess the question is, do the Giants fans want to see their team win or instead to get the highest draft pick possible?
Yeah.
What's your sense? You've been in touch with many of them. What do you think?
I think that I think the Giants fans, that they all want to win. I think that they really like the direction. They really like Daniel Jones a lot. They look at Joe Judge and they think the playoff experience would be very beneficial for a really young team. I think that they're going to be rooting for the Eagles tomorrow, the Giants fans, and they want the opportunity to go to the playoffs. I differ from these Giants fans a lot. Last year I thought it was important for Daniel Jones. I still held hope that Daniel Jones would be applicable to win. And I don't really think that this offense, as it's constructed, is conducive to winning big. And I really think that Joe Judge, I have a lot of question marks about him now. His hiring of Jason Garrett, how terrible the offense has been this season. I think it's one of the worst offenses in the league. And I wonder if Joe Judge has any sense of creative football on offense. He's a special teams guy. He likes tough trench play, but can he be creative on offense with scheme, with motion, creating explosive passing game? Because you look at how the way football is won, and it's won through explosive passing plays. And I wonder if Joe Judge is creative enough to adapt his style to continue to play physically, but also to bring that dimension to the table.
I really think they're going to be hiring a new coordinator, that is the Giants, next year. It's a trial and error thing. They kind of had to throw it together. Jason Garrett is a known quantity, but I think there's friction behind the scenes between Joe Judge and Garrett, and I think Garrett's going to be gone. So either way, I think there's going to be a turnover. Yeah. Much like in Philly, Jim Schwartz is a guy who's not much loved by the owner, certainly by the sports writers here and kind of a starchy guy. And not a lot of people are going to miss Jim Schwartz, just the way people didn't miss Chip Kelly when he left. And so Jim Schwartz is a fall guy, but they at least gave him the opportunity to resign. And it's kind of a weird excuse that he's going to resign, take a year off, and then come back. Well, that's a nice way of saying I don't want to get fired.
Right. Right. Well, his contract is up, right? So.
No, he has 2 more years. I think he's 2 years old.
But he's not coming back to the Eagles.
So they're just going to eat his salary. Yeah, he's not
fire
coming
him?
back.
They're going to.
No, they let him resign. He's gone. So Jim Schwartz is gone. But they sometimes let you quit as opposed to firing.
I think it's good that Schwartz is gone because he's kind of been there a couple of years and he's been there, I just think that his time here is worn off. He's been here about 3 or 4 years. It's a long time for a coordinator. So many injuries that he's had to deal with. So I think that him and Doug, I think that it's going to be good for him to take a year off because he can continue to see how the game is going. He can go around the different facilities and he can get different exposure to different organizations and programs and kind of see how they're doing their work. And I think it's a great idea for him and his family.
A lot of controversy here in Philadelphia in terms of what are they going to do with Carson Wentz. And I think the prevailing theme is if they can't trade him to a place like Indianapolis or to the Patriots, they're going to actually have to release him, and they're going to have to eat the largest cap hit in history.
Why would they release him?
Because what I heard, according to Dr. Steve Lewis, is even if they trade him, they don't get cap relief. They're going to take a $31 or $32 million cap hit,
right,
even if they trade him.
But why can't they keep him on the roster?
Well, they can. And essentially, though, I think there's dysfunction between Doug Pederson and Carson Wentz. There's a lot of rumors about it. And it's interesting that Pederson's done well with anybody but Wentz. Him and Wentz have bad chemistry. And there's a lot of murmurings around the Eagles' NovaCare Center that Wentz just wants a change. And I guess that's as much as we can say about it.
Of course he wants a change, but, he's a backup quarterback and his contract is such. And, I don't understand that because here, if Carson Wentz, if you really didn't like this guy, I'm very surprised that Carson Wentz and his agent would have opted into that contract.
Well, you know why?
That's what's so surprising.
You know why they did? Same reason you'd opted to it. If somebody waved $128 million in front of you, you'd probably go to Siberia.
Not if you hated the guy.
I don't think there's hate. Nobody's used the word hate. I just think,
but not if you don't trust the guy.
I think it's incompatibility. I think it's clear that Pederson and Wentz are incompatible. They don't hate each other. They just don't play well together. And it's awkward, and that happens in sports sometimes.
But you know what's weird is that, Doug Pederson seemed to like Carson Wentz back in 2016. So I wonder what has changed.
It's not a matter of liking. It's a matter of success.
Well, he drafted him. So I wonder what Pederson saw back then. And then in 2017, when things were clicking, those two seemed to get along very well. I wonder what seemed to change these last 3 years. Maybe Doug has changed, maybe Carson, the personalities of these guys.
Well, I'll tell you
what do you think's going on?
I'll tell you what's changed. Frank Reich, who's not there, who really clicked with Carson Wentz, is no longer here. Mm-hmm. Also, the fact that Wentz, there are certain athletes when they suffer a severe injury, in this case, a torn ACL, PCL, and MCL, and dislocated knee in the Rams game in 2017, that players never return to their baseline. Isaiah Thomas, formerly of the Boston Celtics, have you heard of him at all?
No.
Not at all. You know why? Because he suffered a catastrophic hip injury in Boston, and he's bounced around the league like a Buffalo nickel. And you know what? It happens sometimes. It happens that injuries could derail somebody's career. Mm-hmm. All we know is Carson Wentz is the lowest in the league statistically. More turnovers, more fumbles, more incomplete passes, the lowest QBR. And why is that? A lot of things. But obviously things aren't working. And Jalen Mills comes in cold off the bench. And again, the Eagles have a terrible time scoring points in the second half of the last 3 games. Abysmal, like 13 points in 3 games. So Jalen Hurts hasn't been the savior, but he has looked more in charge. And he is going to be starting a fairly meaningless game from the Eagles' standpoint. Although ironically, the networks have it right because the Giants and the Cowboys, whoever wins that game, their fan base will be watching that evening game, that Sunday night football game. Whereas, ironically, the Eagles fans here will be looking at it with one eye closed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that those two fan bases, I mean, at least the Cowboys have some positive momentum going into the playoffs. But, the Giants, if they're going to look at the Eagles and beg on a rival to win, it's just kind of a bad look. It's kind of a desperate look. These are 5-10 teams. These teams are not having great seasons overall. So tomorrow night, I think that the Eagles fans, they definitely want to lose for the sake of the draft pick.
Got a ton of viewers logging in on YouTube and on Facebook. We want to thank everybody. Hope everybody had a great New Year. We just saw an interesting Texas A&M game,
Harrison,
a complete Mongolian reversal where a guy named Akane just came in, a rookie, and just blew the game wide open against the Tar Heels. We have a lot of friends from North Carolina, and again, they had 3 losses, so there was no illusion of a national championship. But Jimbo Fisher, you saw a guy running for his life against the Gatorade Beth. That was one of the most entertaining things I saw today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good season for A&M, kind of proving their worth in the SEC right now, taking the SEC West by storm a little bit this year, and solidifying a top 7 season for Jimbo Fisher. So things are going quite well for him, and things are trending in a good direction there.
Got some great comments here. If you want to read a few. John Fusco, Happy New Year. A lot of great people logging in from our Facebook feed, and we've got 17 live viewers now. It's not too shabby at 1 a.m. here on now January 3rd of a new year.
Yep, it's a new year. It's an exciting time. I think that 2020, it also, as bad as it's going to get, as bad as 2020 was, it kind of gives new perspective to just kind of enjoy every day that you can here. And, when things are going well, you sometimes forget to enjoy little
Take for granted, Take for granted, used to go to those movies, those double headers. You should just jump on the plane and get that early bird, that little Southwest thing, and your last seat on the plane for like $50.
Yeah, you're great.
And now you can't even get on the plane without a, without a birth certificate and a, all kinds of things.
Harrison,
clearance.
I really appreciate all the comments. Joel is here. Marty is here. And, it's a combination of, a lot of Giants fans on YouTube talking about Devontae Smith. And the Eagles and Giants fans are going to be talking about him as Alabama beats Notre Dame. You look at Devontae Smith, and he looks like a complete wide receiver, doesn't he?
You're right. He sure does. And you know what? The one thing the Eagles made a mistake because they had Justin Jefferson right there, but they looked at combine numbers. Howie Roseman looked at a guy named Jalen Reagor and thought that he was a fast runner and that he looked really good in the combine. But it turns out he wasn't ready for prime time. He had a very mediocre to bad year. And Justin Jefferson, it's much like Kevin Durant. When somebody passed on him because he only could bench press 40 pounds. Look at that. So when you're watching an athlete, you got to go with the eye test. You don't go with the combine numbers. So the thing about, you look at Devontae Smith, he's a slightly built guy. He's about maybe 6'2", maybe 6'1" even, and maybe 175 pounds. But that guy just is magic. Just the way if you look at Jerry Rice, now obviously we're not comparing him to the best of all time. Jerry Rice comes from a small school, not the fastest guy. There's faster.
Where did Jerry Rice go to college?
Oh, he went to a small school. I don't remember actually.
Right.
And the fact is that Devontae Smith just gets open, just catches balls in the big game. And you know what? I think that teams are going to be clamoring to get him.
I think he's smart.
There's a question here.
I think he's really
We have
smart.
Lisa from Reading, and she wants to know, and she's asking you specifically. Quarterbacks coming out in the draft, I want you to stratify them from 1 to 4, let's say 1 to 4.
Right.
And let's really break them down based on everything.
Right.
Their ability to go from college to pro. So who would be your number 1 pick?
I think it'd be Zach Wilson at BYU.
And why?
I think I would take him because unlike Lawrence, I think that he's just more flexible than Lawrence. I think he's a little bit faster than Trevor Lawrence. He can get outside the pocket. He can throw on the move. But I also think that Lawrence is very good. So, I mean, I would probably, if I was Jacksonville, I'd still take Lawrence because as much as I like Wilson, I would definitely get fired, if Wilson doesn't work out. And Lawrence is not a bad player. Lawrence can be really, really good. He's 6'6". He's kind of like Justin Herbert in a lot of ways. I think Lawrence is going to be a successful NFL quarterback as well. Lawrence is a calm demeanor, not like a fiery Tom Brady-like demeanor, but a calm demeanor. Very cool, calm and collective, kind of like Deshaun Watson, ironically. So I look at those two guys as the clear-cut two top guys. Then the next couple guys, I'm going to go with Trey Lance because Trey Lance has very good mobility. I think that he is excellent at noticing pass rush. I think he has freakish athleticism. I think his ability to contort his body and throw, I think that Trey Lance could actually be a little bit like a Russell Wilson, like a souped-up Jalen Hurts. I think Trey Lance is going to be an absolute star. I think this is a very good draft class. And then, other than that, it's a huge divide.
A lot of Mac Jones fans. Mac Jones
I think that
has 4 interceptions. How many touchdowns?
Yeah,
26.
I don't really project Mac as a starter at the next level. I think he's a backup quarterback. I think that he'll be drafted in the second round. I think Justin Fields.
What's his limitations? Let's stick with Mac for a moment.
Mac's limitations are he is a pocket passer. He's unable to escape the rush. He's not very strong physically, so when he gets hit in the NFL, he's going to suffer. He cannot move side to side. He goes for his progressions fine, but and his release point is quick. But again, against the pressure of the NFL, he is going to be unable to be successful because the pass rush will overwhelm Mac Jones. Mac Jones has all day to throw, and he's good in the college system, but his game will not translate to the NFL because he does not have that awareness in the pocket to escape and make those decisions.
So the question is, Carson Strong, who plays for Nevada.
Right.
Not a lot of people know about Carson Strong, but one of the best players in the nation, certainly has all the intangibles. Do you think he's going to stay one more year in Nevada then come out?
Oh, yeah, he is.
Tell us about Carson Strong. Everybody should watch his highlights.
Strong is
very exciting player.
Elite level arm strength, the ability to roll outside of the pocket, the ability to throw 65, 70 yards, and has a real competitive edge to him. I mean, this is a guy that, out of Northern California, he only had one offer, one scholarship. So kind of similar to a Josh Allen story. Now, he doesn't have the athletic gifts that Josh Allen has in terms of running, but I think Carson's going to be an absolute stud at the next level. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch going out in this draft class. I think he'd probably be number one on my list for next year. Him and Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma are guys that I look forward to in the next class. But this class of guys is definitely a really good class. I mean, Justin Fields hasn't even been mentioned yet. He'd be a quarterback I'd look at in the late first round. He's similar to a Teddy Bridgewater in terms of his ability. Even though you look at Fields and he's a dominant college player, how dynamic he's going to be at the next level, I don't think he has good pocket awareness. I don't think that, even though he has some athletic ability, I don't think he's a quarterback that really gets outside the pocket and scrambles and has a good feel for the
Talking
game.
about Justin Fields?
Justin Fields. And even though Justin Fields can throw the ball a good distance, I still think that his release will really get him in trouble. You're seeing the same with Carson Wentz. His release point is just he's a big guy. He has long arms, and it's just a very, very unorthodox and problematic delivery point. And I don't really see him translating to being a really good starting quarterback. I just don't. I see a bottom-end starter to a backup in a few years.
A lot of questions about your pick for the national championship game. You were really bullish on Ohio State last night. You were taking some bold predictions.
Yeah.
In fact, thinking that Ohio State could even beat Bama.
Well,
and now you're kind of rolling it back on Justin Fields. What happened within 24 hours? I thought you were all in on Justin.
I'm all in on Justin Fields. I mean, I think Fields is going to have an unbelievable game against Alabama. I mean, look at the best players.
What do you see, though? What do you see in that game?
I mean, just because Vince Young is the greatest college quarterback of all time, you asked me, how is Vince Young going to play in the NFL? How is Justin Fields? You asked me, is Justin Fields going to be a great NFL player?
I'm needling you a little bit.
He's not. He's a great college player. Tim Tebow is a national champion. He's one of the best. He went to Denver. He was not a long-term starter either. So, look at Justin Herbert of Oregon. Justin Herbert at Oregon was a guy that never made the college football playoff. He lost to Bo Nix. He choked in a lot of games in college, but he's a better quarterback than Joe Burrow is at the NFL level. I'm going to say that. Even Tua Tagovailoa, who's one of the most dominant college players ever. I mean, Chargers fans were booing Justin Herbert because Tua was massively better at college. You look at Jalen Hurts, who was a mediocre college quarterback who was fine. The NFL game's completely different. In this final game, the Ohio State defensive line is the best D-line in all football. Their linebackers, Werner, Sean Wade, the best cornerback. They're going to totally get after Alabama. And this Alabama defense under Pete Golding is not a good defensive coordinator. Ole Miss put up big points on Alabama. You look at
Kyle
Trask put up 50 points on Alabama. This is not a good Nick Saban Alabama defense. It's just not. You go back, you look back at Stetson Bennett and Georgia's anemic offense put up 31 points. So you look at LSU. LSU was even able to put up, pretty decent points. This Alabama defense is not a good. It's not a good defense.
So it's subpar compared to usual Alabama.
It's soft. And Ohio State's defense. Look what they did to Trevor Lawrence, who is a better college quarterback than Mac Jones.
He was seeing ghosts at the end of that game.
Exactly. Ohio State is a complete team. They have their defense is light years better than Alabama, and that is why Ohio State's going to win the national championship, because they combine great coaching on the offensive side of the ball. Fields, Ryan Day, Chris Olave, Trey Sermon is a fantastic player. I think Trey Sermon's the hottest running back in the NFL, in college, and it's going to be a good game. But Ohio State is a more complete team. I mean, do you think Alabama and Najee Harris? Do you think that Mac Jones is going to win a national championship? Or do you see Ohio State continuing this momentum from one of the biggest wins of their history? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, number one, I think that Justin Fields suffered some rib contusions. And even Dr. D'Elia, who's our staff urologist, not neurologist, he believes he might even suffer some damage to his kidney based on some without violating HIPAA. And if indeed Justin Fields suffered some injuries, they're going to be lingering and are going to carry through to the national championship game. Now, if that's indeed true, then obviously it's going to have a bearing, because Mac Jones and that team really hasn't even been nicked up at all the whole season. And if you look at Alabama, they really haven't. They've won every game, and they have a 7-point advantage in the spread. And a lot of people are really bullish now on Alabama, and I would be surprised to see that number widen as we approach game time.
Interesting. So you think Alabama's going to win? Let's hear a prediction.
I do. I think Alabama's going to win by 10 points. That's my prediction.
What's the score?
Okay, it's college football. Okay, 10 points. 40-30. I'll go with some round numbers. 40-30. Bama.
I'm going Ohio State 48, Alabama 30.
Okay, still a lot of points.
Big Ohio State win by over 2 touchdowns.
All right.
But let's talk about Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer has been in talks with Jacksonville. Do you think that this guy, Urban Meyer, has had a lot of anxiety in the past? Doesn't deal with losing, particularly.
The anxiety is when he's with the teams that he wants to leave.
Do you think that he's going to?
They said he was burnt out. If you remember Dick Vermeil, when he was with the stint with the Eagles, they said he was burnt out. Before you know it, he was with the St. Louis Rams, and guess what? He was hoisted the Lombardi Trophy.
Vermeil?
Urban Meyer. That's exactly what happened.
Martz.
Vermeil won a Super Bowl.
When? What year was that?
Don't ask me questions.
Was it with
like
Kurt
that.
Warner?
Don't remember. So again, I don't remember things like that.
No, was it 20 years ago? Was Marshall Faulk? Was it 20 years ago or 40 years ago?
It's not 40 years ago.
No, was it 1980 or 2000? Because Vermeil was with the Eagles. And
1980 he was with the Eagles.
Was it the LA Rams or St. Louis Rams?
St. Louis Rams. So
I
that's
think
the
it
whole
might have been
point.
the greatest show on turf then with
The
Mike
whole
Marks
point
and Vic
is
Vermeil.
that Urban Meyer will be back. He's a young man. He doesn't have heart problems. He had anxiety problems, which are in many
But it
cases,
could cause
treatable.
heart problems.
Let's not get into
panic attacks.
Let's get out of the medicine field. Let's
But
talk
you look
more.
at Urban Meyer and him and going to the NFL level. Is Urban Meyer an elite game player? Because he recruits the best players, but when the players are all equal and he doesn't have that recruiting edge, could he still create great offense?
If you're a Jacksonville Jags, you want to bring a guy like Urban Meyer in with that name because you want to put some fannies in that seat.
And
that
you don't want it.
It's been empty.
Put
That's
it
been
this
a
way:
dead
if I
franchise.
was Roger Goodell, can you force an owner out if they act in a completely inappropriate manner? Because I think it's completely inappropriate.
Well, that happened
for
to
Jacksonville. I don't want to see them move out of Jacksonville.
Do you remember an NBA team where they forced their GM out?
I don't want.
Do you remember that?
The Sixers.
Yes. Who did they force out?
Colangelo. But
they
the
forced
owner.
out Hickey.
Do you think that
They
the
brought
owner is
in
going to move
Colangelo.
the team to London and teams have to travel like 6 hours to another continent or country to play? Maybe it is a new continent. I mean,
It is a new continent.
That would definitely be certainly very difficult on these players. And I have a lot of friends that are British on this show. A lot of great friends.
There's a lot of.
But I want for the city of Jacksonville. I want Jacksonville to be a metropolis, a booming metropolis. And I think with Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer going there, I think you're on to something.
Well, we've seen people change things for the better. Look at the Greek Freak. He took Milwaukee, which is a very dead town, a dead franchise, and he just signed a mega deal for like $230 million max deal.
Right.
And the Milwaukee fans are rejuvenated, and that team is good. And I like to see it. If you remember Oklahoma State, when they had Durant, and they had Westbrook, Oklahoma State, which was nothing. OKC, actually Oklahoma City, not Oklahoma State, of course. So you can have a team be rejuvenated. Even Joe Burrow has taken, and before he got hurt, the Bengals, they were filling their stadium with what? Cardboard fans during COVID? Yes, they were.
They were.
But the fact is, Burrow's going to be back, and they're going to be fans.
Joe Burrow.
And Joe Burrow has added, you can rejuvenate a town with the quarterback, and you can rejuvenate the Jags with Trevor Lawrence. I think you will.
I agree. Look at Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen is rumored to be maybe interested in an NFL job. I mean, because I don't know if Dan Mullen might be fed up with these college players sitting out bowl games. He might want to deal with guys that are not going to tank. And so what do you think about Dan Mullen potentially leaving his dream college job at the University of Florida?
We know Dan Mullen. He's right here from Jacksonville, Pennsylvania. One of the really great coaches, one of the funny people, inspiring people. If Dan Mullen got a sniff at an NFL team, I think he would take it. That's my gut feel.
Really?
I think he's a great coach.
Even the Jets?
I'll tell you one thing. Being here in Philly, Doug Pederson, he'll always get another job. I would take Dan Mullen in a heartbeat in terms of strategy, innovation, motivation, everything rhyming with motivation. That's Dan Mullen. Everything that Doug Pederson is not.
I'll be thoroughly entertained by Dan Mullen.
Yeah. And we want to thank, we got a ton of people. James Francisoni, I can never say his name right. Wonderful guy.
Marcus Levy.
And Marcus Levy and Marcus Knuckles even from Chester, Pennsylvania. The man, the big man, the big businessman, Marcus Knuckles with the best sports name. He's logging on.
Big game.
And we've got Dr. Steve Lewis, Coach Josh
Browns.
Daish logging on to Rover Sports. Would wish everybody a happy new year. And
big game for the Browns tomorrow.
Big game. Tell us about that. Give us a little preview.
Yeah, the Browns got to beat Mason Rudolph at home to make the playoffs.
How about Myles Garrett Mason? I heard that somebody reached out to break bread, and I think Mason Rudolph reached out to Myles Garrett.
Are they going to eat dinner?
And and Myles Garrett, I think, was strangely silent.
Wait, he declined the offer?
I think he declined by not saying anything.
I think Mason Rudolph might be able to get Baker Mayfield to get Myles Garrett because
they know each other.
They do. They were rivals in college at Bedlam. You know, with Mason Rudolph being a kid from Rock Hill, South Carolina, he went out to Oklahoma State. He played against Baker Mayfield for 3 consecutive years in the Bedlam rivalry game.
Want to read some comments? Anything?
Yeah, absolutely. It's talking about the Browns, it's talking about tomorrow's Giants Cowboys game. I think the Cowboys have a chance. Now, Dalton against the Giants defense, I'm a little worried that Dalton might not be that good tomorrow against the Cowboys, against the Giants defense. What do you think?
Well, Dalton was certainly hot. He certainly torched the tire salesman, otherwise known as the Eagles secondary. And I think the Giants certainly, I think their defensive line is their strength. And I think Dalton is rather immobile. So it matters. I think that the Giants have to take chances. They've got to blitz. They can't just lay back and play the old Jimmy Schwartz wide nine or open the arms up and let him score. So I think it's going to be a dogfight. It is in New York. Unfortunately, a fanless MetLife Stadium.
Yeah.
So my prediction is Giants win that game by 3 in an ugly game with turnovers. And I think Joe Judge outcoaches Mike McCarthy, which isn't hard to do.
I look at the later game then, and is
Eagles.
Alex Smith going to be able to play the whole contest? Because if Alex Smith plays the whole contest, I think Washington can win that game. Now, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is still playing. Washington.
Miles Sanders is out, sitting a lot of people.
They are,
Fletcher
but the problem is
Fletcher's
with Washington, well, Washington's a bunch of chokers. I mean, Washington, they lost to a horrible team last week in the Panthers, and you watched that entire game.
I did.
Tell us about that's a 4-10 Panthers team, and the Redskins needed to win. So how could you have any faith in this Washington Redskins football team going to Philadelphia tomorrow if they can't even beat the dang Panthers at home?
Well, I think the fact there's no fans here in Lincoln Financial Field, I think that bears on the game. So it's going to be a neutral field. It's going to be quiet, like a little chess match. The Skins, as I like to call them, have a chance to win the division, and it's been a while since they've done so. And I think every dog has his day. So I think the Eagles have nothing really to play for. Miles Sanders is sitting out. Fletcher Cox has a stinger. He's not going to be playing. Jalen Hurts, will be playing. And, I don't really have a good feel other than I think the Eagles will lose this game. They want to get that 6th-round pick. They want to get maybe a little Devontae Smith. Yeah. Somebody like that could be a game changer for a team with no vertical speed on the outside. In a team that's going to be cutting Deshaun Jackson, cutting ties with Alshon Jeffrey.
You can't let Howie Roseman select another receiver. He picked Art Sega-Whiteside. He ended up picking Jalen Reagor really early in the draft. You look at Justin Jefferson, and who else was selected in this draft? Michael Pittman, Denzel Mims. It's really good receivers. So I don't know.
Quay Watkins, there's another miss. Quay Watkins,
you had CeeDee
two
Lamb,
catches.
You had Henry Ruggs in the first round, and
Quez Watkins. Excuse me.
Yeah, John Hightower is. He
all these guys are flashes.
He had trouble catching the football. John Hightower from Boise State had really poor hands. Now he did. I think John Hightower has a chance to be decent in this league. But then they got Marquise Goodwin, who immediately got hurt. I mean, it looks like Marquise's best days are behind.
He opted out because of COVID concerns.
For his
COVID
family.
Because he has new
young
baby.
Kids. I think he had a horrific tragedy a couple of years ago.
We can't fault him for that. Yeah, we can't fault him for that.
I remember on the 49ers.
So that's what's going on.
Some people never want their team to lose a game. But again, if you have a team like you're the Jets, them losing games is better because of the ability for them to select Lawrence. I mean, when you're the NFC East, you have to think, can this team go on to the playoffs, and can this team win some games and be competitive in the playoffs? And I don't know if I see any team in the NFC East. Maybe the Cowboys have the best chance to be competitive in the playoff spot.
The Cowboys at home, let's say against the Seahawks, they have a chance. Seahawks have been very up and down, maddeningly inconsistent this year. So as much as here in Philly and in New York, most of our fans are in these two large metropolitan areas, I have been impressed with the Cowboys the last few weeks, and they're on the upswing.
Do you think Eagles fans are rooting for their team to lose tomorrow night?
You know what? I think people can say that, But when you're actually watching your team, especially Jalen Hurts, who's a very dynamic player, very exciting, are they going to root for him to get sacked, to throw interceptions? No. But they might think they will. But I think when the game's on, it's hard for a true fan to literally root against a home team. It's a habit.
The thing is, Devontae Smith might not be available if the Eagles win. You also look at Carson.
Very true.
You also look at Carson Wentz, and when Wentz was in the game, I believe there's a large segment of the population of Eagles fans that were rooting for Wentz to struggle in the game, like rooting for the team to do poorly so that Jalen Hurts would get put on the field. I believe there was a large percentage of fans that were rooting for interceptions, that were rooting for failure so that other quarterbacks can come in. So a lot of fans think it's never appropriate for you to root against your team, but in some cases, I think it's just intriguing to see the future and accepting some losing drives, some terrible plays. Sometimes that can advance your team by getting those draft picks and by seeing some youngsters get some playing time.
If you're a Chargers fan, would you be rooting against Tyrod Taylor?
Absolutely. To see Justin Herbert.
To bring Justin Herbert in?
No doubt.
A lot of people. It doesn't mean you want your team to lose every
But you
game.
don't want to be in purgatory.
But you want to see.
think Ravens fans like Joe Flacco playing well, but you don't want to be in purgatory. And that's why some fans, they're like, you always got to root for your team to win. But, I mean, when your team needs change and when your team needs a dynamic player to step in and change the future, I think that's more important sometimes, especially if the season's not going well. But a lot of fans are like, you always got to root for your team. You can't root for your rival ever. You can't respect your rival.
I'll tell you what, whoever wins that Cowboys-Giants game, and for the most part, they're going to become Philadelphia Eagles fans.
They're going to be rooting for the Eagles.
They're going to be Eagles fans. And that's frankly why the networks put that game in prime time. And a lot of people in Philly just shaking their heads like,
games,
why put that game in prime time?
How about Bears-Packers? I mean, that would be a great, great game. Mitchell Trubisky with an opportunity to really change the narrative of his career, which has been a disappointing career in Chicago with no playoff victories. Imagine if he beats Aaron Rodgers tomorrow.
If Rodgers loses, will they relinquish the number one seat?
Yes.
That's a dead Mullen. That's a dead Mullen.
But Alvin Kamara might be on a coronavirus list. He might not 100%. Be eligible to play.
Kamara is definitely on that list.
He's not going to play tomorrow.
And not only that,
he's their best player.
Two other running backs are also contact traced out of the game. So you're losing
the Saints?
3 RBs.
They are playing the Panthers, but again, like maybe the Panthers they're 5 and whatever. They're really bad, but maybe they can beat New Orleans tomorrow. Who knows?
We're going to find out.
It's a rivalry game, and even
Charles Maggi, happy New Year.
Even Matt Rule made fun of Sam Hinkie. He's like, I don't tank in Carolina.
Well, I think we got a lot of people. This is a late night, obviously a very long weekend for everybody. It's a long holiday weekend.
Yeah, still trying to get our mic, really good.
Yeah, we're getting our technical. We're a little. If you notice, this is a new camera. It's a little pink, a little too feminine for my taste. Nothing against that. But my orange shirt has turned into a pink shirt. You have a pink face, and we need some pink rabbits. But having said that, I want to wish everybody, again, that's the nice thing about New Year's. When is it unfashionable to wish people Happy New Year?
Well,
certainly,
never.
It's still fashionable to wish them
never.
January 3rd. We can say Happy New Year to
March,
everybody.
You should say Happy New Year.
We can still say it.
So nice.
So what are we going to tell people?
It's kind. It's an
closing,
uplifting message.
A ton of people like it.
I'm going to enjoy every single day.
Enjoy every day.
Whatever motivational quotes.
Onward towards vaccination.
Control what you can control. Like, don't worry about the bigger things that you can't control. Control what you personally can control in your community of people around you.
So before I close, I'm going to say one thing that has nothing to do with sports.
Happy New Year, Joel. I appreciate that.
Happy New Year. So for everybody out there, I got the Pfizer vaccine a week ago. Just some minimal arm pain, nothing at all, no flu-like symptoms. So I just want to encourage everybody to get the vaccine, the Moderna. Dr. Lewis and myself both got the vaccine, and in about 2 weeks, I'm going to get the second part of it. So if everybody gets vaccinated, we'll all be able to go back to the stadiums, go back to live concerts, support your bars and restaurants. And we really don't be afraid of the vaccine. It's not bad at all. I'm not the youngest guy around.
Thank you for everybody watching
and the show, everybody's going to get vaccinated.
I definitely wish some great health for all of our listeners.
Wish great health and for a prosperous, happy, and safe New Year. Love to all the families out there. We got a lot of families quarantining, and obviously I got my great family here and my great daughter and my wife. We just watched a little movie earlier. I could say
Yeah,
Good Will Hunting.
We did see
great
Good Will
movie. If you guys
Hunting,
want to see a
first
great
time.
movie, I never saw it. I have to admit,
young Matt Damon.
that was a hole in my movie roster. Never saw Good Will Hunting.
Right.
The late Robin Williams with an amazing performance. So, having said that, I want to wish everybody good night. We'll be again logging in tomorrow. And for the Rovers, for Dr. Lewis,
take care,
Coach
everybody.
Josh Days.
We'll talk football tomorrow after the Giants and after the Eagles.
We're going to say
tomorrow.
good night and
Take
good sports.
Take care. Bye-bye. Take care.